All right, so we're here with Ryan McVeigh from Zilla and from the Madison Area Herpological Society. He's the president, and we're just going to get into it. He's a wealth of knowledge, and it's going to be a great time, so stay tuned.
Very cool. Okay, Ryan, we're going to start this out like every other one, and I'm kind of excited about this because, you know, we only really hung out one time before when we met in Indianapolis one time, and I love the conversations, real level head. You got your hand in a lot of stuff. I want to hear how a poor kid from Wisconsin stealing cheese from little kids now works for Zilla and has his hands in just about everything in the industry.
Yeah, that's a long story. That's a big question, man.
I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, but no, it really came down to how I ended up at Zilla is kind of crazy. This is not part of my path at all. I had no idea that this was going to happen. I went to school for engineering. I always loved reptiles, but I decided a long time ago I wanted reptiles to be my hobby, and I watched too many people turn it into a business, and then that's where your money for your family and your rent and your mortgage and everything comes from, and there's more pressure to it. So I didn't want to turn my animals into like have that stress. I always wanted it to be a stress relief and be something I could kind of run away to, not run away from. And so I went a different direction. My grandpa built a lot of really insanely huge mansions and houses, and he had his own construction company. He built some Frank Lloyd Wright houses. And when I was a kid, I helped him. I was on site helping him hammer stuff in and sort nails and whatever else, and just really fell in love with buildings and construction. So I went into architectural engineering and HVAC design, got my master's in wastewater treatment plant design and groundwater and soil remediation from like oil spills. Kind of my way to still kind of give back and enjoy the environment and protect the environment and conserve animals and things like that, but through engineering. And then I started the Herp Society, Madison Area Herp Society in 2010, and fell in love with education and outreach and passing my passion on to people. I actually found that my passion for educating kids about reptiles is bigger than my passion for reptiles. I like teaching kids and getting other people excited about them almost more than I like keeping them myself. And then that kind of grew, and I built a name for myself working with that and fighting laws in Wisconsin and working with USARK, and started kind of getting into a lot more people and breeding some cool, fun stuff and getting to know a lot more people. And it grew more and more into the hobby. And then at one point, somebody from Central, some friends of mine that worked at the pet store when I was in college, they worked for Central in their tech and warranty department. And they called me up and they're like, hey, dude, Zilla, I was an engineer at the time. And they're like, Zilla needs a reptile guy. I'm like, that's cool. Well, that's not a job description. I don't know what that means. And they're like, oh, you should talk to him. And I'm like, so I'm making a good income. I pay for my house and my family, and I'm not really sure I'm ready to walk away to be a reptile guy. So I kind of told them I'm not interested. I need to know more. And they kind of just kept bugging me, but never gave me any more. And then after a while, they stopped asking. And the head of HR at Central sent me an email. She's like, hey, we sponsor the Herp Society. I know they've already asked you and you're not interested, but here's the job description for a brand manager for Zilla. If you know anybody in your group that would be a good candidate, send them our way. And that was the first time I saw a job description, and I read it and kind of went through it. I'm like, all right, marketing. I haven't done marketing, but a lot of what they're talking about is what I did to make the Herp Society as big and successful as it was. It's all, and the numbers, all this stuff, it just made sense to me. I'm like, why don't I talk to you first, and then we'll see if it works out. And it did. And that was it. That was how I ended up at Zilla. And then from there, I just used that pedestal to continue to push education and make the hobby better and design cool new products that I thought would make people better successful keepers, and just push my passion using a bigger platform.
Very cool. Very cool. Much appreciation too, because honestly, like I told you, I'm from Madison, Wisconsin. If I was still there, I'd have my hand in everything you're doing. Oh, yeah. I would be the bitch in the relationship, which is cool.
Everybody is though. I'm good. Yeah, I need a lot of minions to do my bidding.
Yeah. Anytime Ryan's name comes up in the hobby, it always starts out with alpha male. And that's just the way it's got to be. And that's okay. I've never been an alpha male. I'm not going to start now. But, really a lot of respect for the whole educating. And total respect, too, for not just really wanting to be a full-time reptile person, because, the reality is it's fucking stress, and it's constant stress. And it's not just the stress of keeping your animals cared for. It's the stress of, what if you have a bad year producing? what are you going to do? Like, there's not a backup plan if you fail at what you're doing. And things can go wrong when you're working with live animals. So I wouldn't want that to be it. Even though that's all I do, still scares the shit out of me on a daily basis.
All right. Well, and I got to a point at one point where I was like, I had probably 350, 400 animals, something like that, tons of geckos. I was a big gecko guy. I still love geckos. But I was like, this one rack had like Australian knobtails and like Madagascar stuff and I wasn't hitting everybody's parameters perfect. And I was like, I'm not having great luck because they're not as warm as they need to be. They're a little too warm. And I kept a lot of stuff because I thought it was cool and I'd sell it, I'd make some good money. And I got to a point that it just became work. And I'm like, if everything I kept was worth nothing and I just gave the babies away, what would I keep because I just loved it? And that's what I did. I got rid of everything that I wasn't passionate about, that I didn't really love, that didn't really drive me. And I just kept that stuff. I'm down to about probably 80 animals total now, but it's all stuff that every time I'm in their cage, I geek out. And that has made the hobby for me so much more fun.
That's good. That's good. I mean, this hobby can burn you out fast. So if you don't honestly find your niche, there's no longevity. People that come into the hobby just with a dollar sign in their eye, usually the people that are gone within 5 or 6 years.
Absolutely.
So, again, being a Madison guy, I'd really love to hear more about the Herpological Society out there. I'd like you to tell us more about some of the stuff you've done for the community, some things you're doing now, some things you did in the past.
Absolutely. So right now, it's actually kind of funny. This last year, obviously with COVID and stuff, we're not doing nearly as much outreach, but one thing we are doing to counter that is we're doing a lot of live streams. So we're using Zoom, we're interviewing different people. We're letting them do presentations that way, and we live stream everything for the Herp Society. We're one of the only Herp societies that live streams our meetings as well.
You're like the biggest and best Herp society in the country, really.
Well, yeah, we're not the biggest, I don't think, just because, there's Minnesota's gigantic, but there's nothing else to do in Minnesota, so I get it.
If that was the case, Maine should be awesome, but
A bigger part of it was when I started this, it was a conversation back on a forum, on the Wisconsin Reptiles forum back in like 09, 08. And it was, hey, what would it be cool if we had a Herp Society in Wisconsin? They have the Chicago, and I knew people that went down to Chicago all the time from Milwaukee when I lived there. And I was like, I don't see why we couldn't do it. So I started asking around, and I worked with Jimmy Stepflug at the time. He decided to step up and kind of be a VP. He had the show in Madison. He's like, you can use it to ask people and try and get it going, see what happens. I'll help you if you have any questions. And we started out that way. He wasn't involved for too long because he was just busy. And I didn't dip my toe in. I cannonballed off a cliff into this thing and put my whole life into it. And I spent an enormous amount of money on flyers and banners, everything I needed. And I got a spot together and just put out a bunch of calls. Hey, anybody that loves reptiles, we're going to meet for the first time on this day and see how it goes. And we just started meeting and having speakers, and I had contacts. I was able to get in some really cool speakers at first. And that's really kind of how it started, was I want to get all these reptile nerds together, because if I have to talk to my family about frogs again, they're just going to walk off on me. So I need a bunch of people around that want to nerd out with me instead of getting sick of it. So I just kind of created my own friends because, that's what you got to do. And I didn't have the technology to build them myself. So, that's kind of how the Herp Society started. But after that, it became a lot more. We started doing a lot more outreach, getting into the schools, doing any community events we could. And we were on a normal year. So after, obviously, this, we're probably looking at around 100 different events that we do, whether it be school science nights, Wednesday nights during the school year. The schools do science nights in Madison, and we have groups that go out to 2 or 3, 4 different schools every Wednesday night and set up a table and bring animals and get kids interacting with them, or do a presentation on native species. We do stuff. We work a lot with the humane societies around the state and helping them find homes for animals, or coming up and educating people about what kind of animals they'll see in their backyard, what's stuff to worry about, what's not, that not everything that is a rattlesnake or a copperhead or a cottonmouth or a water moccasin, because we don't have any of those last 3 in Wisconsin. And then now it's just, we actually have grown because there was so much demand for people wanting to be a part of our group that just couldn't make it to Madison on a Friday night. We started another branch in the Fox Valley. So up by Appleton, Green Bay, there's a branch. And then we started another branch in Milwaukee. So each branch has their own board and their own president. And I now am the executive director over the whole thing.
Okay. Do you guys have matching leather jackets for your different clubs?
We decided to go the sexy underwear route. We don't show it off a lot, but all the presidents have matching underwear.
Okay, is this like a polar bear thing where you guys all jump into Lake Winona in the summertime just in your matching underwear? I mean the wintertime.
Oh yeah, obviously. Polar plunge, baby.
Yeah.
I was, Bill talked about this underwear many times, and he keeps on trying to get me to see it, but I don't know. It's been real awkward.
Well, we'll get you there. We'll get you drunk one night. We'll get you there. Here, sniff this rag. But no, it just kept growing, and we have some. I can't take a lot of credit for what happened with the Herp Society because I just brought passion and excitement to it, and I got other people who did, and we've got some drivers, some people like Bill Stewart who his passion is just as on fire as mine, and he's just as excited to get out there, and those are the people we get on the board, and those are the people that help drive it. And now, like I said, we're 3 branches. Each branch has at least 20 to 40 people at a meeting once a month. Our live streams are getting more and more people every time. Like I said, that live stream thing, even our normal meetings, was kind of weird at first, and we were nervous about it. Recording them and then posting them on YouTube later, but it was just too much work, and I don't want to edit it, and I don't have the time to do it. So I just said, screw it, let's live stream it. Everybody will see how much fun it is to be here in person. If they can't make it, they can watch it and at least get the information. But after you come to a meeting and just hang out with everybody and talk reptiles and nerd out, there's nothing like that. You can't be part of that watching a video. So it actually caused our Young Explorers or our Kids Herp Society and our General Herp Society to all grow probably 50% in the first year after we started live streaming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's real cool. Ryan and I, we talked about maybe it's been 5 years or so now ago, like, oh, we should start, a herbological society here. And we've known you for many years, and we're like, yeah, this seems good. And we started going through it. And I think me and you had a conversation for like a few hours. And after that conversation, I was like, yeah, no, that's a lot of work. I don't know if is that really what we want. I mean, we want to do that, but there's a lot of bandwidth you need there.
Well, if you do it for 10 years, you can eventually become executive director and then have to only work on the high end stuff.
Have cool jackets, but cooler underwear.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, but no, it's been an awesome ride. It's kind of crazy how far it's become and just how much education it's spread out there. And then this year, we actually had something really cool happen. We're doing Eastern Massasauga surveys at a new site where they were discovered in Wisconsin that they were thought to be extirpated out of that area. And it's the first time the DNR has ever worked rattlesnake surveys with citizens. It's the first time ever. So we're the only group that they've ever done that with.
That's so cool.
So is that up and coming, or did you guys just do that?
Actually, I was out there yesterday, and then last weekend we just started it a couple weeks ago. It was supposed to start this year earlier, but again, COVID kind of messed that up. So we got everything ready, and then me and 2 other guys actually have our endangered threatened species permit, so we can interact with the Massasaugas, take measurements, hook them, bucket, take pictures, and then work with the DNR to just kind of get a good population of what's out there after that one was found. And we'll be doing that for probably the next 5 years. And it's already, because of the work we're doing and working with the head of this program, she's already looking for other programs for us to do. So there's another site that there was a remnant population of saugas from about 30 years ago that they don't know if they're still there. So we'll probably go check that out and start surveying there too. And then looking for some other endangered herptiles in Wisconsin.
That's so nice. Cool. Yeah, I've only found a couple Massasaugas over the year on road cruising, but talking to like Eric Erb, who does a lot of herping, and I'm sure you know him. He'll talk about going to like a swampy area looking for these. They're not swampy, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
A little outside of some ponds, and you'll hear like this teeny weeny little buzz, and you'll literally be looking everywhere. There's like a little crayfish hole with a little buzz coming from it, and I guess that all leaves me asking: did you find anything? Like, what exactly does the area look like? Tell us more about it.
Oh, dude, it is the most untouched habitat I've ever hiked. It's super cool because even though it's a protected like park area, there's no trails, there's no nothing. There's a parking lot and a levee, and then a forest where every 6 inches there's a tree this big around, and you have to like shove yourself through it. And man, the grass is up to here, and there'll be a 2-foot drop into water, and it's rough. It's hiking that for 4 hours it's like I did 7 miles up a mountain in the Smokies, and that was about as hard as it was to do 300 yards here. So,
Wow.
and the thing that sucks is we started so much later in the year because of COVID and the disruptions that caused with the DNR and everything else, and we missed the main season. You really want to be out there like April, May, when the snow melts and it's pushed the grass down, and then they come out on those grass tufts and bask right away in the morning, and they're easy to find. After they breed and it starts to get warmer, they move deeper into the heavier stuff and into the woods that are almost impossible to get into. And then you're looking for a rattlesnake that coils up this big under tons of leaf litter and fallen logs and trees. You can barely see your feet while you're walking, and you're pushing so much brush, you're not going to hear a buzz at all. And it's a nightmare. So right now we're hoping to see one. Maybe we'll trip on one, but really we're just getting a survey of the land, elevations, marking a lot of spots that we know they'll use at different times a year. And then next year we'll have a better plan of attack as we segment it out and say, okay, it's about this ground temperature, this air temperature. I think information now, so check section 1, sectors A and B. And after this group finishes that, then you can go walk wherever you want and just hike. But let's scour those areas really well, depending on the weather and what we're looking at. So this year's kind of just a learning year and a getting used to the habitat and seeing what we find. So, but it's been cool. Yesterday we found spring peepers, wood frogs, a whole bunch of other amphibians, salamanders, a huge beaver den. So, yeah, it's just cool to kind of be out there, and it's seriously, man, this is like hiking. This would be like walking through this area 200 years ago. Like it's surreal when you're out there, how just peaceful and cool it is. There's beds. There's a group of black bears that must be living on that site right now because we found bear scat and like beds from them. And so it's kind of neat. And like, we're just walking around. Erica's walking and she's taking pictures of every plant and IDing all this stuff. And she's like, you can eat this. No, it's not a snake. Shut up. I don't care. Find a rattlesnake. It's just kind of cool to just see, like, we found almost no invasive plants there even. It's just untouched. It's kind of surreal. It's really cool to be out in that habitat.
Oh, that's awesome, man. God, all over the place on that one. So are you guys well out there? I mean, are you going to see how many you're coming across? Are there going to be any tracking devices involved in this? Any samples of any kind taken from any animals?
So not right now. Right now, they just want to know, what is that actual population? Is that one that got found the one? Is there 20? Is there 50? Are they hidden? Where are they moving? How can we even begin to understand the layout so that we know, how would we go out to track them? Or how would we go find more? So really, it's just getting them. If we find them, put them in a bucket, a white bucket, so we can get a good picture of the pattern to identify individuals. Their pattern is unique enough on each one based on the saddle counts and shapes that just a good top picture can give you an identification. So we're doing that and then tracking a lot of the data when and where we're finding them. And then over the next couple of years, once we get a better idea of where they are, what habitat what part of the habitat they're utilizing and when and what time of year, there may be some opportunities to go out and actually start doing some tracking or radio tracking. But I think for now, we want to be a little bit more hands-off and just kind of get a good lay of how it looks. But one thing cool too, we actually, as we were out there yesterday, we had an entomologist, friend of ours who works the rescue with us. She's actually, I think, the vice president of the rescue, or secretary. I'm not sure what board position she is, but she's part of the rescue and one of our friends. And she's an entomologist in Illinois. So she was up with us and she found endangered rusty patch bumblebees on the site too. So it's another species that they can use to conserve that site.
That's awesome. That really is.
We're looking at everything. I mean, can we find if we find ribbon snakes there, that they might be there too. That'll be another species that'll help conserve that site because they're endangered. So the more we can put into that, the more emphasis on, hey, this is a habitat for 4 or 5 different endangered species, that solidifies that habitat and its protection a lot stronger and a lot longer.
Very nice. Very respectable, man. That's awesome to be a part of that. I will never get asked to be a part of anything. Ever. I guarantee. Unless you invite me somewhere, I will never be asked to do anything when it comes to that.
You come up here, you can come with us. I have to bring you up. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll show up in, would you say, May? May's a good time?
Somewhere April, May, I'll get you the forms, you sign your life away, and then you can come with me. And
My life is dog shit, buddy. I will sign it to anybody.
No, there's some confidentiality stuff, and then I basically tell you, hey, if you take a picture and somebody realizes where you were, I'll cut your balls off and feed them to you and then put you off a cliff.
All right, sounds like a pretty big meal there, buddy, but it might be worth it.
No, it's just that's something that we want to be really aware of is that all it takes is one idiot to go out there and start thinking they're going to find saugas and they're bringing their boots from another site that has snake fungal disease, and that's it. So we're a little hush hush about it. We're not telling anybody where it is, but there's always chances I can bring somebody out there if they want to sign their life away. Yeah,
I'll be honest. I treat herping spots like fishing spots. If you put me on a spot, I'm going to be respectable and never talk about the fucking thing. And as for pictures, I'm going to probably show Eric, but I promise I won't show anybody but Eric.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, even the people that we have out there, we're like, take pictures and you see frogs and stuff. Just make sure it's not like here's the whole habitat and the parking lot and the road we're by. Like, just be smart about it.
Okay. Well, from the sound of where you're at, that should be pretty easy as long as you don't find anything in the parking lot.
Yeah, no, once you get past like the first line of trees and punch through, I don't know if I could take a picture that you could figure out where I was anyway, because it's all oak barrens and woods and bog and just up to here. So, I mean, I took 6 pictures last weekend, and I swear Ann and Erica are in those pictures, but I can't find them. So I'm like, I know it's your hat, but now I'm zooming this picture. I have no idea where you are, but you're in there. It's just that thick out there.
Yeah, I will say, when we hung out the first time, herping were some of my favorite conversations we had outside of talking economy and everything else. And we also talked about some of the timber rattlesnake experiences you've had in Wisconsin. Even though I've already heard it, I'm sure other people would like to hear about that.
So we love hiking for timbers. It's one of my favorite species out here. The timbers in Wisconsin are orange and red and yellow, and like you see canebrakes and some of the southern timbers, and they're brown and they're just kind of drab. These are just smoking gorgeous, and they're the biggest timber rattlesnake den in the country is actually in Wisconsin. So we've gone out there, and I've done. We went out there with the Herp Society once with USGS Wildlife Health Division. The head of snake fungal disease in the U.S. came out with us, and we went out there, and me, him, and 2 guys walked up this hillside to where the den was, and I was leaned into the hill so I wouldn't fall, hooking rattlesnakes out of a den bare with my hands, pinning them, letting him take a scale clipping, sticking them in a bag, tying it off, setting it over here, grabbing another one, and we did that to take all these scale clippings looking for snake fungal disease. And it was super cool to be part of that too. And then like the next month, he actually came back, and that was one of the only Herp Society talks I didn't record or anything because we were asked not to, because he actually gave us all the data from the scales that they collected, and we got the most up-to-date information on snake fungal disease at the time that day. So it was super cool to be a part of that too. But no, that spot that I told you about, that denning site, in about 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to start heading out there a lot more. It's about a 3.5-4 hour drive from me now. But the last year, there was a weekend I missed out. I couldn't go. I was out of town, and a buddy went out there. He found 138 babies and like 15 females and piles of afterbirth all over where these females had just given birth under these rocks. They all gave birth in like 3 days, and they were all over the place.
Wow. That's crazy.
Like when you go out, you never find babies. You'll find like subadults to adult timbers. You never find babies. This is one spot I can take you, and I know we'll find baby timbers.
Very cool. And you said what time of the year? I'm assuming that's early October for that, or a little later?
A little earlier, actually, mid to late September. So really in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, wow.
It's colder up here. So after that, by usually like the Tinley date, by then it's too cold to go find them.
Shitty. Okay, so snake fungal disease. That's one thing that not enough people know anything about. Let's get a little more into that and some of the things that you've noticed and some of the effects you've seen in different states you've gone to.
So I haven't found snake fungal disease everywhere, but it is spreading across the United States. It started up in the northeastern area of the country. It's come down around the Great Lakes. It's in Wisconsin. It's in Minnesota. I'm pretty sure it's in Iowa and a lot of the Midwest. I would have to really double check on all the places it's popped up. I haven't dug into it too much in the last couple of years after our big major first push of getting awareness out there in the first place. I know they're still tracking it, but the research on it slowed down a little bit as they're kind of have a good hold on what it is. But basically, it's a fungus, just like any snake can get a skin infection or a fungal infection on their skin. Usually they shed it off. The problem with this fungus is the fungus get down into their muscle tissue. So even if they shed it off, it comes right back and it doesn't go away. And the reason it kills snakes, there's two things that it does. If it gets too bad on their face, it makes it hard for them to see and to eat. Eventually, they aren't able to eat and they starve to death. The other thing it does is a lot of these snakes that are getting it are like timbers, milk snakes, fox snakes, things that will actually den together in those areas. So when they're in their den over winter, there's 200 rattlesnakes in this, crack that goes back 500 yards into a bluff. There's a bunch of rattlesnakes back there. Well, they're itchy because they have this snake fungus. They're rubbing all over each other and passing it to each other. And it's nice and humid down there. So it's a perfect breeding ground for it. And then they get agitated and they want to go out and bask to get the energy to fight the fungus. And they're coming out and basking on top of the snow and dying. So you can actually find rattlesnake dens in the winter if they have a heavy snake fungal disease load with just dead rattlesnakes around the outside of the opening because they've come out to try and warm up and fight that infection and they just die from cold.
Wow.
Yeah. I think, so I was in Louisiana and I believe I did see some of that down in Louisiana, outside of Baton Rouge. We did see some outside of Nashville, Tennessee when we were down there a couple years ago. I believe that was actually on a garter snake. And I think Louisiana, I believe that was actually on a racer. So that's the two times, and I'm sure there's been other times over the years, but until it was really brought to my attention, little things like that just kind of went right over my head. Just animals take a beating in the wild. You see things like that, you don't think about it sometimes.
Right. Well, and a lot of that was thought to be hibernate. You'll hear hibernation sores. And that's what it was called a lot of times. A lot of times when a snake comes out of hibernation, it's been in humidity, it's been cold. They'll get sores on their skin and things from like maybe a bacteria infection while they were hibernating. And they'll shed that off and work it off as the spring comes and they get out and actually start moving. But the snake fungal disease doesn't do that. But it looks the same when it first starts. So they also kind of think that potentially some of those old sores and the things that we were seeing back in the day was this. It just wasn't as rampant as it is now. So it's a fungus that's potentially been around for a long time. It just wasn't as rampant. So you don't know if it hybridized or it mutated in some way and became a little bit more aggressive. That's not totally sure. I don't know that we know exactly what happened, but the biggest problem with it is actually if you get an animal that has it and bring them into captivity, it's actually fairly easy to treat. As long as they're not like, I've seen animals where their entire head is a crusty scab and you can't even see anything. Those are a little more difficult, but if it's just some sores, they're easy to treat. The problem is it lives in the environment. So even if you treat the animal, you can't put the animal back because it's just going to get it again. So that was one thing where I'm working on some potential future programs, working with the DNR when they find like eastern Massasaugas that have heavy snake fungal disease, where their plan is to take them and euthanize them. I'm trying to work on seeing if we can work on a program where the Herp Society takes them and takes custody of those animals, and then we put in the finances to get them veterinary care and see if we can't get them back in better shape where they can survive, and then use those animals to create more progeny to be able to re-release into those specific places later. So if we get a snake fungal disease site that's say 100 acres and they get 3 or 4 animals that they need to pull, if we can get those 3 or 4 animals recovered, say we only end up with 2 or 3, but we get them to breed, then the genetics from that site exist in those babies and they could be re-released then.
Okay, that's very interesting. And talking about re-releasing or relocating animals, because I think we all have a friend that has a friend who hates a snake, and we go and pick it up out of his yard and we relocate it. But a lot of people don't put in consideration den sites and things like that when you're doing relocation of animals. I imagine, where would you guys relocate? Back to the exact region you found, or a safer region with the den site?
So the thing is, it depends on the species. If we're talking timbers, and we knew it was at a major den, it would make more sense to relocate the babies to another den. With saugas, this is what makes Eastern Massasauga so endangered and what sucks for them. They're solitary. They don't den alone. They den overwinter down in crayfish holes. And that's where they kind of hide out too. But that's actually where they overwinter individually. So even if you have an area like where they came from, you can really release them back in that area, or even an area that has proper like habitat for them. But anytime there's re-releases, you're looking at major die-offs. I mean, you're hoping for 5 to 25% of them to make it and get steady. It takes a lot of extra work, but it just, even if that's not what happens with it, maybe the animals that are produced go to zoos or other conservation organizations as educational animals. It just seems like a waste to euthanize an animal that may be able to be saved in captivity, even though it can't be re-released. I've started that conversation of how could this be bigger, and what would it take? And it's going to take a lot of hoops and there's even some federal hoops there just because they're a federally protected species. But the DNR is open to, my contact there thought it was an interesting concept. So we're going to start probably over this winter when things slow down, actually start ironing out what could that be, what could that program look like, and then what's going to benefit both the DNR and the animals.
Oh, very cool. Well, I could talk herping all day, but I want to really cover a lot of stuff with you. So I'm going to go ahead and put a halt on that. I'm sure we're going to get back to it, but let's go another direction. We were talking to Phil Goss about possibly having him on, but he actually booked a couple other podcasts. So we went with the next best option. We went with Ryan McVeigh, who has inkling of what's always going on. And that's a shitty way to put it, but you know what? Let's just go from there.
I'm happy being second to Phil, man. That's a tall order, dude.
Inkling, bro. Inkling. Let's not get cocky. I said inkling. But so let's talk about USARK and everything going on, because honestly, and I keep on bringing this up, with everything going on COVID, I feel like there is all kinds of stuff going on, and with all these distractions we have, we are all missing it right now and not even thinking about it. So let's talk about current affairs. Let's talk about some sneaky shit going on with the government. Let's just go over a bunch of stuff with USARK right now.
So luckily, the biggest thing that I was worried about died, but not because of any help from the reptile community, all of you lazy dicks that don't understand what this is worth. But the CARES Act that the Democrats were pushing through the Senate or the House, I want to say one or the other. I think they went through the Senate. Basically, it was the Democrats' version of a stimulus package for the country. The problem was it was 1,800 pages. And not all of it had anything to do with stimulus at all. It was a lot of tax breaks for people. It was doing things that the Democrats wanted that they knew no one else wanted, so they snuck it in there. Because they do this with a lot of bills. All Republicans, Democrats, both of them do it. They put stuff. They'll make a bill. It'll be like, we're going to give every American $5,000 because we love you. Underneath that, it says you owe them your children. You're losing everything you have. They get all raises and they own the world. And then when the other side says, hell no, we're not voting for that, it goes on the news, oh, the Democrats are against giving you money. Not the other stuff that we're not telling you, but they just hate you and don't want to give you money. And then Democrats do the same thing where they're like, oh, they just want to tax you to death and blah, blah, blah. And we just want to help give you things. Well, we're going to take everything else you have, but we just want to give you money or whatever. So it's all a con. And that's what all of these bills are. So in the CARES Act, in like the 1600s for like 3 pages, was something about stopping the importation of all wildlife because of COVID. And had that gone through, that's not just we stop collecting tokays because there's too many and it would be responsible to stop. That's every freaking animal coming into the country for anything ever would have happened had the CARES Act passed. Now, everybody would have got a stimulus, so heck yeah, stimulus, money in our pockets. And then you would have lost the chance to get any new blood from anywhere in the country or import any animals ever. So glad that.
Now here's the thing, and being around USARK in the early days at the Little North Carolina shows, it was less, oh my God, you're going to lose your berms. The fear tactic was you're going to lose your ball pythons. And that made everyone pay attention, of course, because this entire hobby is run on ball pythons. Right. Now, what you're saying, which is, would be interesting, if we couldn't even get a normal ball python in the country anymore, what would that do to this? Now, luckily in ball pythons, we have 200, 300 mutations, and there is no slowing down what's happening regardless of what we're bringing in. But it'd be very curious what happens to even like the price of a normal during that. But at the same time, you know, again, completely changes the plane of the game for all species. But, you know, we don't really start thinking about it until we put ball pythons in like the hot topic.
Well, here, so this is an interesting point with ball pythons. So do you remember like probably 2010 to 2012, you could go down to Tinley or any show, and I could go up to a dude that bred ball pythons, and then there was a little bin with just normals that were probably het albino or het pied or whatever, and you could buy them for $5 or $10 a piece. No big deal. Wholesaled them out. I could leave with a whole bucket full for $200. That's not the case anymore. So because there's so many morphs, most people aren't coming out with normals in their breedings anymore because they're not doing het to het as much because there's not that many new things, or even if there is, it's a pastel, enchy, whatever, het that. Because you bred that recessive gene that's new to something with 48 things in it, so that you don't get normals. So now the price of normals has gone up so much that most pet stores aren't having a hard time getting normals in, and that's why they're still importing them. So normal ball pythons still cost a pet store $25 a piece, just because the amount of normals went down so much that it can't feed the market. And then that may not seem like a big deal, but those pet stores are who are introducing the next generation of reptile keepers to the hobby. So people can hate Petco and PetSmart and all those companies and whatever and pet stores and only want to go to breeders. And I get it, and I understand why. And they definitely have their faults. But if I see petitions for like stop PetSmart and Petco from selling animals, the day that they stop selling reptiles, our entire industry dies. That is the beginning of our whole industry dying, because we will not be able to access 70% of the reptile keepers, which I know we think we're a big deal as breeders, but 70% of reptile keepers are first-time reptile keepers within their first year. And we're going to lose all of that. And that would shut down Zilla, that would shut down Zoomed, that would shut down Exoterra. We couldn't live off of just the hobby, especially because when you get to a certain point in the hobby, you're like, I don't really need a cage. I can just weld these boxes together and put a wire in here and put some lights on it. You're good. Like, we MacGyver the crap out of stuff. Like, we need that entry-level person to drive innovation and drive things. And if we lose that, the whole hobby will slowly die from it.
Yeah. Honestly, the Petcos and PetSmarts even putting pied ball pythons in there at one point, and this was years ago. I don't think it worked out as well as they wanted. Surprisingly, not many people off the street wanted to go in there and spend $300, $400, $500 on a steak, but
right.
There were people who went in there and saw that and said, wow, and then did more research. I mean, even me personally, you know, I was a whore for this my entire life, and then I went into my local pet store. I got a couple Brazilian rainbows. I got some Amazon tree boas, a couple normal Colombian boas. And then the guy's all like, let me tell you about shows. And now I get out there and looking at shows, and I'm seeing all this other stuff going on, and that's all because of me going into my local pet store over and over again and buying things. So you're right. When you take that off the table, there's not a fucking Dave, and that's not a world I want to live in.
Right, exactly. I mean, I don't know a lot of guys with tramp stamps, and I would miss you.
Well, there's actually a little club of us. There's a whole Facebook page. I can get you involved, but there's a cost.
Bill's not letting me.
Sure there is. No, but it's true though, and that's the thing is, like, people don't think about that. Like, yeah, there's some pet stores that suck, and when they do, you call them out, talk to the managers, call the company, call that place out. They're actually really good generally at getting in there and wiping out management that's screwing around and not doing a good job. But at the same time, you can't think that if those places go away, the hobby is just going to be able to sustain itself. Just in the fact that I can tell you straight up, breeders and hardcore hobbyists cannot sustain the sales needed for major companies to exist. Without entry-level sales in those big stores, we can't exist, which means no more innovation in husbandry materials and items. That means that all stops. And everything from your UV bulbs to the dirt you use, you'd be done. And UV, but there's no other place to get a UVA, UVB bulb other than for reptile. They are specifically made for reptile. They're not in another industry. So once that goes away, that's it.
Well, there's this industry fueled on this plant that makes your eyes a little bloodshot. Isn't there a lot of that in there?
No, there's no UV in that. Not really. Not UVB. That's not really essential for growing plants. It's more full spectrum visible light.
Okay. Well, I don't know.
Technically, there's
that kind of stuff. So
there's still companies in China that probably be selling it online, direct through Amazon, whatever. But they also, if you've bought some of that stuff, you also know they don't have great customer service, and they don't really care if it breaks on you, because are you going to fly there and do something about it? No. I mean, it would hurt the innovation and the drive of the hobby and what we're able to do. And they were all trying to improve our husbandry and do better by the animals. And honestly, that would all die. And that scares the crap out of me, that, you know, if one of those companies goes under, the amount of damage that'll do to our hobby, and people will celebrate it because they won't understand until it's too late.
Understandable. Well, again, and like I said, one reason I've always enjoyed talking to you, even if you bullshit me the whole time, you really sound like you know what the fuck you're talking about. So I'm very convinced to have this conversation.
I try to sound like I know something.
Yeah,
He really does. No,
yeah, I make a lot of jokes. I use a lot of space up here to remember morphs. But there are a lot more things going on in this hobby besides what we can make. And those are some of the conversations that I find to be the most interesting. And again, that's why I like talking to you so much, because you're not just looking at what's happening on what's the next cutting edge animal. You're in the background looking at everything else going on that will affect what happens with that new cutting edge animal. And that's what I like about you.
Oh, thank you. Well, that's something that I think is a big part of what I do in general in all aspects of my life. Is I'm the same, man, dude. I was the little kid catching toads and just nerding out over every frog. And I think every little kid that has that should turn into me and be as nerdy and financially screwed because they won't stop spending money on reptiles.
Yeah.
I mean, you just spend it on something else. I mean, think about that other
it's going to go in a cage, or it's going to go up my nose. Pick one.
Yeah. Well, it can still go up your nose. That's never stopped a reptile breeder in the past, but, you know, freaks away.
Yeah.
So a really quick side question. How old are you, Ryan?
I turned 35 this year.
Just turned 36. Me and you could have been buddies in Madison growing up, man. I was out there with a bucket and fishing pole every day of my life, man. Just
dude, I grew up, I lived in I went to 18 schools before I graduated high school.
Okay.
I lived in every city and county in South Central Wisconsin. I think I was only in Madison for a short enough time. I don't even know if I would have crossed paths with you. But no, it was, I mean, I moved around a lot as a kid.
Okay. That's sad. It's really sad. Way to bring that up.
Yeah.
This was going really well until you made it depressing.
No, it sucked at the time. It was hard to make friends and keep, a stable footing, but it actually made me really, really able to adapt to situations. So I have friends that just moving is so stressful to them and there's so much to do. And I'm like, screw it, I'm packed, let's go, whatever, I don't care. Don't have to worry about it. Oh, I'm at a show and none of the crap showed up. Cool, we'll wing it, whatever. That stuff doesn't bother me anymore because I've had to always think on my feet.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Street smart, buddy. You're street smart.
Yeah, I'm not book smart, I'll tell you that.
You're a little book smart too, man. Yeah, you remember at least 7 or 8 words to make yourself sound sophisticated. I know what's going on right now.
You know more Latin than I do.
Yeah. Oh, well, fuck Latin, man. Why should we even have to learn Latin, man? I don't want to be an asshole. I want nothing to do with Latin. I am the worst person in the world.
Breed has a freaking common name. You should have seen my gecko room. Yeah, I had 18 different species called stone geckos. Guess what? when you go to buy a dune gecko on a price list and you do it 4 times and 4 different species show up. That's where Latin names made a big. That's actually why I ended up getting so a little bit more proficient at the Latin names, because I'm like, crap, this species I work with doesn't have one, or it's rock gecko. Sweet. That's not a descriptor at all. There's velvet geckos in Africa, Madagascar, and Australia, and they're all totally different. So you kind of have to know the Latin names if you want to order a velvet gecko and not get one of 72 species.
Well, I think I just limit myself to what I'm allowed to work with, and luckily I stick with all the bullshit generic stuff, so we don't have to worry about this in my house.
That's what you do. There you go, man.
Yeah, just keep it simple, man. Let's not make this complex.
You just breed pet rocks and fat blue tongues. There you go. Sausages.
Yeah. There's a couple other things I work with that, move a little more than those. But yeah, that's cool, man. Just fucking jab away. But so let's talk about what's going down in Florida right now with USARK to get back on track. Yeah. So that's huge, and a lot of people know and don't know what's going on. You want to get into some details on that?
Yeah. So first of all, just as a clarifier, it's not actually USARK. It is and it's not. So because Florida is a huge basis for attacks, and a lot of the stuff that happens in Florida, if we're nervous that if a lot of those laws continue to get stricter, they'll become the precedent for other states. So what happened was Phil got together with a bunch of the guys in Florida that are the big players, Mike Barrera, Michael Cole, a lot of those guys, and said, look, we need something in Florida. So let's start a different nonprofit. It's USARK Florida. And that's a group run by those guys. But they work together, but it allowed them to be a separate group so that the funding would be able to be channeled to them directly to fight Florida laws and kind of build Florida as a, hey, that's a place we really need to focus. We need to put more money and attention on this directly rather than USARK, who kind of covers everything. So there's a little bit of a differentiation, but they work in tandem. Okay. So what happened there was you had the iguanas and tagus, all species of tagus, and then iguana got put on the restricted list for ownership. So you could still own them if you were grandfathered in. And it got really weird. They didn't really identify all of the pieces of the law before they passed it, which was really shady. Even the wildlife officers down there were like, we're not going to enforce it because they didn't finish it. And we don't even know how to enforce it yet. And we don't know what to do because they didn't finish it. So a law is really a guideline of like, if you have this and you're not supposed to, here's the consequences and here's how you process that. They were just like, we don't think anybody should have it. Go fix it. And the guys were like, that's not a thing. We can't just do that. So It's kind of in a pause right now, but they started coming out with like a list of who could and who couldn't keep their animals, who could breed and couldn't. And if they bred, they had to get rid of their babies in like 30 days and like all of this random stuff that wasn't done in conjunction with the reptile like hobby and businesses. They were just throwing this stuff out there. So USARK Florida got its first big like mission with that law passing. It was started in defense of that and a few other laws that were coming out similar to that because we saw a lot of this coming, and that's when they really started to fund and build USARK Florida. And then when this passed, that became the first thing they did was actually start a lawsuit. So that's really in this kind of term when it comes to the government, when you're suing them, it's not like I'm trying to get money from you lawsuit like we all think of. It's more of the only way to actually stop a law that was passed or to address it and push against it is to sue them over it. And you have to state your case. And their case was a lot of the financial hardships that were going to come from this, not understanding how big the industry was, not understanding there's so many other economical impacts that are bigger than tagus and iguanas in Florida. And it was going to take away an enormous amount of money and revenue from the state of Florida because the majority of those animals that are bred in the U.S. are in Florida. So they sued them and they won. It's not official yet, but they got given an injunction that basically says the judge read everything and said, yeah, you guys have a good point and I have to side with you. You can't do it right now as an actual official judgment. So they won this, and that kind of pauses everything and kind of shuts it off until they kill it with the actual final judgment.
So I believe the way they put it, and I could be wrong, but unconstitutional. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, so that's what they said. It was an unconstitutional law.
Does that set a precedent?
It could. I mean, it really could, and it comes down to like you're basically you're nullifying property value and forcing people to get rid of property. That's actually kind of where they lucked out, is because animals are considered property, and this law basically says, sorry guys, all of you have to give up all of your investments in this property because we don't like it. And that's just unconstitutional to force people to give up property.
Great. And so, by the way, Benjamin, are you licking your mouth? Or are you trying to say something?
No, I haven't said like anything the entire time.
You haven't said anything in 51 minutes, and this is my fault mainly because I'm not shutting the fuck up right now. So, by the way,
I have stuff, but you can keep going.
Okay, you know the rules on this show, man. Just raise your hand. That's all you got to do. I'll be all
rock, dude. Come on, man.
Yeah, I've literally brought that into my everyday life now. I'm sure Ryan was in the parking lot the other night when I raised my hand when Tim's talking. Like, I just wanted to get a word in.
Yeah, and then I went over to hang out, and he's just like, I hate you.
Was that part of it?
That was part of it. Yeah, there was still love, but I definitely, man, I didn't sleep that night. I felt like the lowest on the planet. It was bad.
That's not why you didn't
A little bit. I definitely cried a little bit. You hurt.
Well, it might not have been you. It might have been the situation at that point. I mean, since the situation was not perfect. We had started drinking warm beer out of desperation.
Oh yeah, no, I was offered one of those, and I unfortunately passed.
Yeah. Well, if
you guys look like you were having too much fun drinking that bath water, I didn't want to take it away from you.
Hey, next show, there's a warm beer with your name on it.
Oh, thank you.
Write your name on it, buddy.
And please put it like in somebody's back pocket so it's like just swass warm.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? Speaking of that, have you ever been iced?
Yeah, I have.
You want to bring that back?
Oh, can you even find it anymore?
Oh, you're fucking right. I'll find it. I'll call my Canadian vendors up and I'm gonna bring it down a case.
There you go. All right.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Growing up in Buffalo, after I was done in Wisconsin, at the age of 19, I started going to the casinos, and if we won, we go to a strip club because we were 19.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was not okay to order a Zima, because not a Zima, a Smirnoff Ice in a bottle, because that's all I ever ordered there, and half the other guys, they were drinking the same thing. Then I turned 21 and I started drinking in Buffalo. I started ordering that, and I'm even having the women at the bar look at me like, "Are you fucking joking?" Like,
yeah,
I didn't know that wasn't a thing.
Yeah, if you want to keep telling that story, just forget the part where you lived in Wisconsin and say you came from Jersey or something, and it'll make more sense. And we
There's never been a story that'll start or finish with Jersey on this podcast, and I'm seeing to it right now.
Come on now.
All the good ones start with Wisconsin. It's only the best state in the union. What can you do?
Yeah, I mean, it is the capital of cannibalism. I don't know of any other states with 2 cannibals in it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Actually, almost got a shirt at one point. It said we have Wisconsin. It said Wisconsin. We eat people.
Nice. I'm gonna get on eBay and see if there's any of those available. I'll buy that shirt.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So while we're talking still, let's get back on track. Alabama right now, man. What the hell is going on in Alabama? Like, is this going to keep on getting worse, or do you think they can turn it around like they did in Florida?
Honestly, in Alabama, I haven't kept as tight of a watch on the situation there. I apologize, but I do know it depends. It depends on how it goes. They're continuing to add things to the restricted list, and they're trying to keep pushing it. I think there will likely be a lawsuit at some point if we can get the funding. The problem is guess what? Everybody watching this, you have to care enough to actually donate to USARK so they can fix this crap. Because if you don't, and we're not donating it, and I'll be honest, if you bought something in an auction, that's great. You didn't donate. You bought a thing at an auction. The person that gave it to the auction and didn't get money for it, that's a donation. And if you're not giving the $5 a month bronze membership, you're a douchebag and should get rid of your animals.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's just my soapbox. But no, I look at it, dude. I was part of engineering organizations, and my dues were like $2,000 a year, and I got a book out of it. And this is $5, $10, $20 a month to save the thing that is the biggest part of all of our lives. It encompasses all of our passion and what drives us. And you're like, I don't know, what's USARK ever done for me? They just saved retics. Well, they've done a lot for you. You just don't know it because you live under a rock and you're a prick.
I don't know if you're going to turn the prick's mind on that cell right there, buddy. But if we're not all doing something, everyone's going to get affected. And that's the way it always has been. And, again, the early days scare tactics. We're going to lose the birds, but do you want to lose the ball pythons? And that was it. That's all I heard over and over again.
The only thing, the reason that we moved away from that and Phil moved away from that is, this is interesting. So every time that Wyatt went on to USARK and said the sky is falling, sales on kingsnake.com would drop for a week or two. And everybody would get so freaked out they'd stop buying and they would just clench up because we thought we were going to lose everything and nobody wanted to invest anymore. So he started doing it so much that people constantly got defeated to the point where we're like, look, every day we're going to lose our hobby. Why even try anymore? So we moved away from that sky is falling mentality because it was so much of a punch in the face every time that eventually you just don't want to get back up again. So it was trying to get people to understand, and there are people who just aren't going to understand, and I get that. I'm not going to convince them by calling them douchebags. I understand that too. But what I need people to understand who aren't on that side, because those people aren't going to get convinced by anything. Unless Phil shows up at their house and saves their animals from the city, no, they're not going to care. And even then, they probably wouldn't care because that's who they are. But what we need is people who aren't doing it, who care about the hobby, to really understand that the only organization that is fighting for your ability to keep animals or keep these animals is USARK. That's it. PJAC, the Pet Industry Joint Advisory Council, I'm on the reptile subcommittee with those guys. Phil is on it. USARK is on it. Like, so they'll do some stuff, but they rely heavily on USARK's involvement. And then like Wisconsin, the only reason Phil's never had to deal with Wisconsin because I'm there and me and the Herp Society take care of it. But we have had to lean on them and we call them when we have problems. But like the value of USARK and what they're doing is, if you can't see it and you don't understand the fact that there are over $1 billion in animal rights groups against our hobby that are putting money towards lobbyists and paying off senators to sponsor bills and things like that every week. That's happening across the U.S. And if you don't understand that, you're not going to understand why it's so hard, why we have to fight it. It all happens behind closed doors and it happens quietly. And that's what you need to understand is it's not in the news. It's not all over the place. You're not going to hear a cry for everybody to get together all the time, but it is always happening. And if we don't have somebody who's always watching it, we're going to start losing, and we're going to start losing fast. And it'll be a city or a county in each state here and there. Then it'll be a state that gets way much stricter. Then it'll be another state that steps it up a little bit more. And the more they win, the harder they're going to fight and the stronger they're going to get and the worse those laws are going to get. And we got to keep fighting them. USARK winning that lawsuit against the government for the Lacey Act like stuff, that was not a David and Goliath thing. That was like an ant versus the universe thing. Like that was just HSS alone, who was a major sponsor of that legislation, a major pusher of it. In 1 year, they make 400 times what USARK does. 400 times more in a year. And we're able to win and some of this stuff, which is unheard of. Like agricultural groups that have billions of dollars aren't able to win against these guys, and we are. So if we could get Phil up to 3-4 times as big as USARK is now, get a couple more Phils in there, like we could start to really conquer and stop this crap from happening and get all these herp societies together, get them to keep educating. Like we need to push each other to get out there and make a difference, and we need to fund USARK while we're doing that.
Mm-hmm. So one thing that I brought up in the past, and I don't want this to be taken the wrong way when I brought it up, is the fight always just going to be us throwing money at it, or is there a next step to this? Something that a community can do as a whole to kind of help in any way? Is it always just be financially driven? Not financially driven. It's not like anybody's profiting from this, but is there a next step to this? Is there an educational step to this? Is there something other than we have to keep throwing money at it because the other side is throwing money at it? So
it's kind of twofold. There's a lot of pieces of it. Piece one, education is a big thing, and that's where herp societies and outreach and videos like this and stuff make a difference. When you guys talk to people and post a video on YouTube and people watch it and they watch an interview, they learn about an animal, they get excited. I mean, all those different pet tubers out there who are showing animals, even if some of them aren't giving out the greatest information, they're still bringing a better light to the animals that we keep. And reptiles is the fastest growing sector of the pet industry by double-digit percentages. It's pretty incredible. Even through COVID, the reptile industry is growing. The hobby itself is growing at about 30% higher than it was year over year. It's on fire right now, and we're getting into new homes and new families and more people, and the stigma of every reptile keeper being a big biker tattooed guy is going away, and you're seeing more families and well-off families getting interested in reptiles as pets. And as that grows and the awareness grows, it'll start to get better. I mean, until we get to the point where 50% of houses that have dogs and cats have reptiles, we're not going to be able to stop doing much funding, but we need to get to that point. And the hobby itself too is actually really young. It sucks that we have to fight this and we all feel like we know a lot, but the hobby itself veterinary medicine, everything dealing with reptiles in captivity has really only been around for maybe 50, 60 years versus keeping dogs and even exotic birds as pets goes back to, hundreds of years. So even longer than that. So we got to understand that our hobby is young and it's new, and we need people to get involved in it, and we need to fight for it while we can. But right now it sucks, but the only way to fight them is petitions and lawsuits, and the lawsuits to fight back with what we're doing is paying attorneys to write up the rebuttals that we need. And unfortunately, if you want to have good attorneys on their side, you have to pay for it. So the money that we're giving USARK, it's not just we're just funding and funding and funding and funding. This is all going directly to, paying these attorneys and paying the fees, their hourly fees, to just drive to DC, to go meet with senators, to go, spread a bill, to rewrite a bill so it's a better language, and then be able to pass that out, and working with their contacts that they have in DC. And there's an enormous amount of expense that goes into that. I mean, HSUS, like I said, they make about $200 million a year. 50+% of that just is a retainer for their attorneys. That's it. I mean, so, and the fact is we're paying fractions of that to do the same thing. And Phil does an amazing job. Like, that guy will sleep on your couch if he can. He won't stay at the hotels. He'll sleep in a car. I've watched him wake up from a car before. Like, he doesn't spend money if he doesn't have to. And he makes sure that every dollar that everybody gives to USARK is used the best way possible. He's an extremely ethical and very driven guy that really loves our hobby and loves the people in it. And we couldn't have ended up with somebody better running that organization.
Yeah, I will say this, and I really hope Phil's listening. I've never seen anybody look so good after rolling out of a car. Like, that motherfucker right here on fucking point.
All the time. He's kind of prissy, but it's all right. We let him get away with it.
Yeah, whatever. At least he's not a stereotypical reptile guy.
Exactly. No, it works perfect. He shows up. He looks nice. All the female ladies in the room.
You got to work on your verbs, buddy. He looks better than nice. You need to.
He is better than nice. I mean, he's a sexy mofo. He is.
Okay, let's take that down a notch. Somewhere between
nice up a percent, down a percent. Like, you're pigeonholing me here, dude.
Mixed signals, Dave. Mixed signals.
Oh, whatever. Did you see the shoes that had Phil on them? The Vans?
I didn't see the shoes.
Oh God, that was good. You missed out. He's a guy that works out a lot, and he is a chiseled dude. One day I will have starved myself enough to look maybe kind of like that in my hand or something. But
yeah. I don't want to break it to you, man. Wait, did you just make a masturbation joke?
No, it was just meant to, like, my hand to be the only thing I think I could maybe get skinny enough to look like Phil. Otherwise, I got, a lot going on.
Okay. Not because you're working it out or anything. Just, we're just saying your hand, maybe lose some weight.
Dude, I'm married. I absolutely am working on it every day.
So this pair of shoes. Now, seeing Benjamin is contributing so much today. If I tell him to go find these shoes right now, can he find them online?
I have to figure out who. I think last I heard, Vicky Poole has the shoes. So you might need to reach out to Vicky if you want these one-of-a-kind, shirtless, posing Phil Goss shoes.
Okay. It looks like Ben's on it, not texting other people right now. Actually, are you not on it? You discouraged?
No, I am. I'm looking.
Okay.
He's looking for him. I'm telling you, once you see him, you're just like, whoa, spank bank loaded.
Cannot wait. So, again, talking about the financial side and everything going on. And, you remember back in the day, like in the early days of USARK, the Ralph Davises, the Jeff Ronnies, you would go to their website or their pages and you would see platinum member of USARK or gold member. I haven't seen that, and maybe I'm not spending enough time on the computer. It doesn't even exist anymore. And it's not like we need a seal of approval, but at least it's something that says, hey, I'm contributing. Why don't you contribute?
Yep. No, that's something I've talked to Phil about. And honestly, the problem with things like that and like some of the things we want to do with USARK and that Phil wants to do is USARK is not a big company or organization. It's attorneys that they pay, and Phil and maybe one or two other people that help handle social media and stuff. That's it. And then the board of directors is bigger than the actual amount of people that work and do things. And so it really comes down to Phil. And that's the other part of financing and trying to help fund them, is helping them find the finances to hire more people to be able to do more. Because I've talked to him about some kind of like some kind of badge or a little, plastic sign you can set at your table that says, silver or gold supporter of USARK or something like that. Because if I go to two tables and they each have the snake I want, and one of them supports USARK and one doesn't, I'm going to go to the guy that supports USARK. We did that with our crickets. I've been ordering from the bug company for 15, 20 years. I ordered from the bug company, but I switched over at Zilla for the lab to Timberline and honestly, that was it. Timberline had done some research and had a cool product with their Vitabugs, and that was interesting to me, but they also Todd Goodman gives an enormous amount to USARK. So he stands and supports the hobby, and he puts his money where his mouth is every day. And that's the kind of person I want to support.
So, just like you said, there's got to be a way in, even something as simple as a sticker or a certificate that gets handed out table to table at Tinley for people that are avidly working to try to do something for them.
They do a little pop-up card for people who donate to the auction. But it's up to those people to give a crap enough to display it and put some it's also, that's the other thing, it's also up to us. When somebody comes up to your table and wants to buy something, I send them to USARK afterwards. Just be like, hey, you bought this blue-tongued skinker ball python, go see Timberline and get a care sheet. They've got some care sheets for you, and go check out USARK and ask them what they do, because they're the only people in this building actively protecting your ability to have that for the rest of its life. Yep. And if you're not going to go pay attention to them, these shows aren't going to exist. And it's up to the vendors and the guys that are the people with the voice behind the table to say that to people and to actually emphasize that it's important. So that's another thing. When you go into a show and Phil's in a little booth in the corner, all the vendors are making, over at Tinley, millions of dollars change hands. And then we're in St. Louis, we're excited because they raised $20,000 for USARK. That's awesome. That's great. I guarantee way more than that is a fraction of a percentage of the money that moved around in that building. So that's something that me and Erica are doing with our breeding. Now, I don't breed a ton of stuff. I just kind of keep it when it has babies, awesome, and then I sell it. But 20% of what we make is going to be split between USARK and a conservation initiative each year. Just because I would already go to somebody, if somebody came up and said, hey, it's $100, I'll give you 80. You guys know you're going to go, sure. You're going to get the animal a Sunday. You're going to go, okay, you're going to take 20% off. It's not that big of a deal. But what if instead you said, no, my prices are firm, but here's what happens. The $20 that you would want off, I'm actually going to donate to USARK and conservation. So your money isn't just going to me. That 20% you're trying to save is going to go to saving these animals in the wild so that they still exist, and then saving our hobby in captivity so we can continue to keep them. So
this community has proven over and over again, it is a true community. I don't think it's that divided. Some people say it's not. I don't think it is. And talking about community stuff, just based on I know there's more hands in this than Breezy, but what they've done for JT at the moment and what's being raised. And, list goes on. I hate that I'm drawing a blank on a couple of the other things, but current affairs, JT, what was that, bud?
Joe Huff, that was huge.
Oh, Joe Huff was huge.
Yeah, we ran a couple auctions for Leland when he was in the hospital.
Yeah, Leland
passed away, and there's a ton of the community is incredible. But at the same time, it's interesting. So we ran a fundraiser auction for IHS, and we raised 10% of what we did in the other auctions.
Wow.
Yeah. When it comes to a person or a personality, people are all behind it. JT raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then you've got who worked with Justin Kabilka that had the brain tumor.
Yeah.
Chase. They raised $500,000 for him. But then
unbelievable.
For USARK, you're like, well, here's $5.
Yeah.
It's insane to me. This is the organization that's saving our lives and saving our ability to keep our lives. and we can't get more than 20 grand at an auction with all of the breeders from the Midwest at it. Like everybody who's making a living and funding a lot of stuff and doing all this stuff, they're there, and we can't make more than that off of one night. Like that's rough.
So, and this is not taken away from any of the goodness that came out of what they did. Like you said, for JT, Chase, everyone over the years, we've done so much for so many people. JT and Chase were two that stood out because the dollar amount was absolutely crazy. Like it almost became like a contest at that point, or like a competition. Like, holy fuck, how big can we get this number? And a shit ton of respect for that. But if I was USARK, I'd be out getting with those guys and having them do some fundraising or something and getting them more involved, because what those guys have done on just a couple auctions has been fucking crazy. And the lack of money coming in right now, with the lack of the big shows this year, no Tinley auctions twice in a row,
right?
No Pomona auctions. We had the one in St. Louis this weekend, but a lot of that money, and they're getting like $60,000, $80,000. I think in every one of those auctions is not happening at the moment, and they're not really picking up the slack anywhere else.
Well, the problem is that the honest problem is the community is great and we're there to help each other. But if there's not a good story and a heartfelt message behind it, that you're helping someone, we rally behind each other, but for some reason we don't rally behind our own causes very well. So I don't know why, and I don't know what that is, but if something happens to me, I know the community is going to step it up and take care of my family and help out, and I know that. I know that something would come out of that. But at the same time, if I go up and say, guys, I want to raise 200 grand for USARK, and I'm not going to stop until we do, and I could do anything, I could offer your entire building custom done with Zilla enclosures, and we still wouldn't hit it.
So, in your opinion, is it because, and not that USARK is not always a current affair, but it's not a fresh topic. USARK got established in what year? Mid-2000s?
It was, man, I want to say late 2000s.
2005, 2008, somewhere between there.
Somewhere in there. Yeah.
So this is a household name. This has been around. It's something that we all rally behind and care about, but it's not a current thing. Even though it is, social media is so fucking fickle, and we talk about this all the time. Someone who's relevant today might not be relevant in 1 year, might not even be in the hobby in 1 year.
Right.
And, the sad thing is, too, with USARK is I think we've all got a little too comfortable there. We've gotten used to it. We feel like we've all contributed over the years. People might be taking on it.
That's why I say that recurring $5 bronze membership, it's $5 a month. It auto comes out of your PayPal. I do that because most people aren't even going to notice a $5 withdrawal. It's a stop at a gas station. It's not that much.
No.
At the same time, if all of us did that, I mean, it's a game changer, man. That's crazy what that could do. And the other thing is, the problem with the USARK and why it's not in your face all the time is because of what I said earlier. If they were always saying, we need money, we need money, we need money, we're fighting this, we're fighting that, then people get burnt out and feel like, you know what, screw it, it's the end of the world anyway. I've been fighting for 10 years and it's not going to make a difference. The problem is the people on the other side are more dedicated to fighting forever and never stopping. And until they go away, it's never going to stop. But we just need to continue to finding ways to fund it, to fight them. And the other part of it is, even during the lawsuit, people want constant updates. A federal lawsuit, like this Florida thing happened fast, like in a week from when they filed it, or a couple weeks from when they filed it to when they got the preliminary injunction. That's insanely fast. Like I think COVID might have helped because nobody's doing anything, so they had to look at it. But like that federal lawsuit took like 4 years. And that's a federal lawsuit. It takes forever. So even though Phil doesn't have like a, hey, this is what's happening right now, here's what we need to do, and it might be 6 months before there's an update, that's because we're all sitting around waiting for something to happen for 6 months. But you have to keep that momentum. And that's the problem I see with the hobby. We find a call to action and we all rise to it. But if there's no call to action, everybody gets complacent. And you have to understand that while there's no right call to action, those people that are fighting against us don't stop ever, and they won't. It's fundamentally in them. The passion we have for reptiles, they have the same passion for no animals ever contacting a human ever. As much as everyone watching loves reptiles, that passion you have, they have for making sure no human ever contacts an animal in any circumstance whatsoever.
Yep.
if we're not going to put that kind of funding towards it, then they're just going to keep beating us up. So, like I said, look at the bronze membership, do a small recurring payment. If you can do more, you can do $20 a month, 30, 40, 50, whatever. Do it. If you only do 5, that's fine. That's the other thing I run into is people are like, well, I want to donate to USARK, but I go to these auctions and I can't spend $1,000 on a snake like these guys or $10,000 on a painting like Todd Goodman. And I'm like, dude, I can't do that. No one else can. There's like guys that can do that. Stop trying to be those 3 guys. What you can do is I bought a whole bunch of books at the silent auction that were like $5 or $10 a piece.
Same.
Yeah, because I mean, I still did something. I still found something I could do. I could still go buy a hat or a T-shirt. Yeah,
hey, fucker, that's my book.
You left it at my table.
You can still buy a hat or a T-shirt or a sticker or whatever. Anything helps. And that like recurring payment, you're going to sign up for it and you're going to forget it exists. And then in your background of your life, you're going to be supporting an organization that is the only one supporting you.
Right.
And if I could add something to that,
hey, Ben, who the fuck said you could talk?
Dang it, I knew it.
Go ahead,
Ben.
I'm
I do have like a big topic to talk about once we're off of this one, but I do enjoy USARK. Ryan and I have always been trying to donate and things like that. But a thing that I want to point out to people that are listening is when you're thinking about this, and it comes up all the time. People ask me and talk to me about this. When you're doing this, don't be stingy and a jerk about it either. Like I've had people come up to me and they're like, "Hey, I won this for $18.50," and you're like, "Well, give them a 20," and they're like, "Well, do you think that they'll have the change for the $18.50?" Like, what are we doing it for? Like, what's the mentality? What's the real mindset behind it? Like we always try to give a little extra. We try to donate a little bit more. We try to always round up. And those types of little things really, really make a big difference. Like stuff happens and things go wacky or whatever. But at the end of the day, if your intentions are correct and, you're really doing it for the donation. You're not doing it because you won this weird looking snake that was made out of, clay or something and then it chipped. And
also, I need to make a clarifier because this has been something people brought up. There was someone once that won a Freedom Breeder rack in a raffle that supported USARK. Or what was it? No, it was somebody was selling it, got it, was selling it, and they were donating all the money to USARK, and the best bidder, whoever won it, was getting it. Someone that all of us know won it and bought it, and then went out and told everybody how he had donated that amount of money to USARK. And I had to be like, guys, just as a heads up, when you go to an auction and you win a $1,000 snake for $800, you donated this much to USARK. You bought a $1,000 snake for $800. The person that donated the $1,000 snake donated the $800 you spent to USARK. The only way you're actually making a true donation is if it's a $500 snake and you paid $1,000 for it. Then you donated to USARK. Otherwise, you're just getting really good deals on stuff you wanted anyway.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. Or like the whiskey balls for $110 or whatever I bought.
Yeah, that's a donation because those
are the fun ones. Like
for $1,000. That's a donation.
Those are pies. Pies.
They're $1 a piece pies. When you buy a $10,000 snake for $80. You just scored. You didn't donate. You won.
Yeah.
But here's the problem, and not to really go another direction of what you're saying, but it's not like I'm completely against what you're saying because part of it there's a little negativity, a little discouragement behind it, and just because somebody got it for a little bit less. What about the guy who spent $10,000 on a book worth $2? Is that a donation?
Yeah, because after the $2, everything after the value is a donation.
So as long as the value is higher than what's put in the auction, it's considered a donation?
Yeah, if you're as a nonprofit, you're a donation to a nonprofit. If you win it, if you're bidding on something or it's a raffle, the only way that you made a donation is if you invested more than the value of the item.
The fair market value of it, yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to donate to USARK, giving them cash for nothing is a donation. Giving them a $20 for a $10 T-shirt, that's a $10 donation, and you bought a $10 T-shirt. And then if you wanted to donate an animal to the auction, no matter what it goes for, your donation was the market value of that animal.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think saying something like that discourages people from bidding, though? Or do you think everyone's just always looking for a good deal?
I kind of can't. It may, and I hope it doesn't. It's just a clarifier. If you absolutely bid it up, spend as much as you are comfortable doing, but the reality is that helps USARK. I just don't, I get frustrated when people are like, I bought this $2,000 rack for $1,000. The $1,000 went to USARK. I donated. Like technically the money came from you and went to USARK, but it wasn't a donation. You purchased something that you got at a severe discount, and then the person who sold it to you gave the money away instead of keeping it. So, but just a clarifier, if you really, when you're donating to USARK or you're donating to a nonprofit, that's you giving something without anything in return, or it's the value of the thing you got back. Absolutely buy everything that goes up into an auction, no matter what you pay for it. It's better that it sells for $750 than $600. Like anything is going to help, and it's better. The bidding wars are great. That continue to improve how much money is going to USARK. I'm just clarifying that, like, these people who are like, I go to the auction and spend a bunch of money. Yeah, you do, and you help USARK by doing that. But you're buying things at an auction. If you're spending more than the value of those things, that's an actual technical donation. Yeah.
I think that it's, I don't want people to think that it's discouraging or anything like that when they go there. And so, it is what it is. But the reality is, just like kind of what I was saying earlier, it's all about your intention and the heart of what you're trying to do, Like, if you're really trying to get a good deal on an animal, I mean, that's cool. That's great, but don't, what Ryan is saying here is don't take that, man, I'm trying to get a good deal on an animal and then say, well, I'm helping USARK by doing that. I mean, it does help. So don't get me wrong.
Yeah. You're helping if no one else wanted to buy it for anything and it sold for nothing, then you'd be helping by paying $100. But at the same time, the person that donated it is the one that took that financial loss and risk and put it in the auction. Yeah. And again, it's just a clarifier. Really, everybody should just bid and go crazy and buy everything you want, no matter what it costs. But if you really want to be a rock star donor, just go up and hand fill $100 and walk away.
Yeah.
Maybe get a picture with Phil, maybe with his shirt off. Can we have an incentive here?
Turn it into shoes.
I got an incentive for you. Hang on.
Did you find the fucking shoes, buddy? Did you actually find them?
I found that.
That is the picture.
No shit. Why is he looking the other way? Like, is that a thing? Is it because he knows how good looking he is?
No.
Yep, that's bodybuilder, kind of slightly emo Phil.
Son of a bitch. He doesn't really, well, I'm not even going to get into any details on this. I think I'm going to not comment. I'm going to choose to not comment.
I don't know if you looked at that picture, but I'm pretty sure he could knock you out.
So why didn't we just, what I was going to say was going to offend him. I just didn't want to come off any gayer than I do on the regular.
Whatever you want. Yeah. Phil takes a lot of gruff, so I don't think you can offend him too much.
Yeah.
And no offense, beautiful man. Those should be glen muscles, buddy. Doesn't mean he can knock somebody out.
It's all Photoshop, whatever.
No, definitely not Photoshop. That was legit. I've looked at these pictures in the past. I know what's going on.
Oh yeah, I know. You had a hard time writing your name the next day. I know you've watched those pictures.
True. Just go ahead and blame Chad Halker for going to the gym so much. That's all I gotta say, buddy. Okay, this is the Ben part of the podcast. I'm ready for some Ben action.
All right. Well, I have a couple more serious topics, but also then we have fun stuff too. But so one of the things I really like about Ryan, I mean, we've been friends for a while, and I've been to your house. We've been to the Zilla place, and one of the things that I like about you is that you're very, very detail oriented in the husbandry. And something that people might not know or might not think about is something that you talk about all the time, micro habitats. So can you talk about the work that you're doing with the husbandry, and trying to define micro habitats to create the right space for the animals rather than just a space that works?
So a great example is Odatria, which are all the dwarf monitor species and a lot of the Australian desert species. I kept and bred a bunch of them. And I eventually just got rid of all of them because I had so much trouble getting healthy animals, and unless I bought a ton of babies and grew them up myself. And the problem with it was these animals bask at 150 degrees on a rock in the desert. And everybody sees these red sand deserts and think, man, that is bone dry Sahara, and that's where they live. Now, inside of a terrarium or a tank or a front-opening terrarium or whatever you want to do, you have a harder time understanding that under every tree out there is shaded. So there's shaded spots. Under a log, there's moisture. In a crevice of a rock, it's way cooler than it is on the outside of the rock, and there's moisture. So these small rock lizards live deep in these crevices of these rocks where there's dew and humidity and moisture. And they almost live in a tropical environment inside those crevices where it's also very cool. Then they come out to hunt, breed, and eat. And then they go back in there to hide. So when people are keeping them in a terrarium, they have a 150-degree hotspot, hot, dry sand, couple little hides, and that's it. And these animals, I went through probably 10 adult Kingorum, and almost all of them that I got as adults died from gout and liver issues and kidney function issues because they were dehydrated, because they were kept so hot and so dry. They had gout because they were dehydrated. They were fed meat when they're almost strict insectivores in the wild. Actually, Kingorum are kind of cool. They have a really, really long, skinny tail. And what they do, they walk into a crack. If they see a spider, they open their mouth and they wiggle their tail around behind the spider and just start poking the spider until it walks into their mouth and they eat it.
Wow.
Like that's what they do in the wild. Super cool. But you wouldn't know that. And people just try and provide this hot box, and you end up drying them out and killing these animals. And that's what a microclimate is. So these microclimates are little spaces. You can walk around in your yard and find this. You can walk out in your yard and you can temp gun the ground in the sun, and the ground on the sun on the dirt, and the ground under a tree, and temp gun inside a hole next to the tree. Dig a hole under your porch, temp gun there. Check the humidity. It's all different everywhere. So these you can find these niches that they live in. And if you're looking at a picture of an Australian desert, you don't see those niches. You don't see those small little microclimates that are in these small spaces. So we generalize husbandry, and every time we do that, we end up killing the animals because we're not giving them what we need. What they need. We're giving them a generalized idea based on pictures and data we've gotten from the habitat. So roughly, it's this temperature in Indonesia, so they all need to be this temperature. That's not totally true. Between the ground cover underneath the leaf litter up to the first foot, I mean, the rainforest is a great example. It's hot and humid and awful there. If you're within the first 18 inches off the ground, it feels air conditioned because it's all shade and humidity and leaf litter. That's why dart frogs live in the rainforest, but if you bring them home and put them over 80, they melt. How do they do that when the rainforest by our head, if you're standing there, is 90 degrees and 99% humidity? It's because down on the ground, that's not what the temperature is. But if you were looking at a picture of the rainforest and then looking at temperature data for that day, you're not going to understand that there's a massive change every foot you raise yourself off the ground. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem with a lot of the husbandry of a lot of the cooler species we have. We just generalize it all down to a quick, simple, like one paragraph care sheet, and then that's it. But the reality is these animals have such specific needs and little niches that they fill, and we're not providing that for them. So there's a lot of times where the husbandry, I would tell people, if you wanted to get Kingorum, treat them like they live in the rainforest. Give them a really hot spot, let the tank dry out, always make sure the dirt is wet and they have lots of wet, humid hides and crevices to climb in, but there should be one hot spot and the rest of it should be warm and the bottom should be cool. You almost want to treat them like it's a rainforest. And because the reality is it's hard to create their habitat in an enclosure and have a rock crevice with a lot of humidity and cool down there, but out here it's hot and over here it's this, and it's difficult to do that in a small defined space. But you really need to understand how those different habitats and little small climates make a big difference on how they grow, how they live. I mean, tortoises are another good example. Look at all the pyramiding in tortoises. A lot of that has to do with even desert tortoises, like sulcatas, spending a lot of time underground. Most people don't think about that because they're giant tortoises that live in the desert. But guess what? They don't sit out on the desert sand when it's 140 degrees. They burrow underground into a cool, humid den.
Yep.
So, and when you don't think about that, when you have a sulcata, so you keep them real hot, you keep them real dry, and then they pyramid and they look like crap and they have tons of medical issues. because we're providing them with a too broad stroke of a brush.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, and we're a broken record on here with Bowen's pythons. We bring them up every episode. Same basic concept of that. We go in treating them like every other python we've ever had, and no one's successful with them. I'm not saying that there isn't a certain level of expertise that goes into breeding a thing like that. But again, paying attention to the animal and knowing the environment it comes from, I believe anyone has the potential of being successful at anything if they pay attention. And I think that really with Bowen's, I think we'll see a lot more. But again, we're a Bowen's broken record right now.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, there was a catch in Florida a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah?
Finally captive bred in the U.S., true captive born and bred Bowen's pythons this year.
Yeah, we were talking to those guys about it.
Yeah, so I mean, like, that's super cool. But, like, you know what they didn't do? Stick them in a drawer on newspaper.
No, of course they didn't. Because that never worked before. Why the fuck would you try it again?
But, like, that's the thing. Like, my Savu pythons, I was talking to Gary Shavino the other day about how he's like, I think that these guys just ovulate and breed differently. Most snakes you throw together, they ovulate. They've bred. Once the ovulation's done, you pull the male. She develops her follicles, makes eggs, lays them, you're good. But these guys seem to breed. No matter when they breed, it doesn't matter in the beginning. You have to get the males to breed the female during and after ovulation for them to be successful. That might be a key. It's the opposite of what you do with all other pythons, but that might be the key to this one. So next year, I'll be trying a couple different things in that. I've bred them for 5 years, and I've been trying for 12. I've successfully gotten them to lock up for the last 5 or 6 years, but I've never gotten eggs, and I still can't figure out why. They swell up, they look great, I can feel follicles developing, and then they reabsorb them.
Huh.
So, but that's the thing. There's something we're missing, and I'm tweaking different things in how I do it because I know there's something we're missing. And the just standard broad stroke brush of get a python, you treat it this way, and it breeds. That's not always the case.
I have a friend, and this gecko species is very common. I'm not going to say what it is because, I don't want to be an asshole because he gave me insider information. But he took this very commonly bred gecko in the industry and went from keeping them on paper to 5 to 6 inches of cocoa fiber deep. And they started pretty much burrowing down, creating tunnels like a fucking ant farm down there. And they would always still lay their eggs underneath a dish that he'd provide on the upper side. But when he started doing this and creating this communal thing, his numbers went way the fuck up. And it was even a lot less maintenance for him too at that point.
Yep. So that's the other thing. Like, I understand. Like, I gave Garrett Hartle and me, I gave him a lot of crap when he was at my place because I'm basically opening all these drawers, and the racks that I had more racks at the time. I've moved over to a lot more open caging because that's just something I wanted to do, but space-wise didn't have the room. But even my racks, my quarantine rack, once they're out of quarantine, I know they don't have mites. I know they're pooping okay, and it's just I want them in for another couple months to be sure. They get switched over to mulch. I put in fake decor. I put in plants. I put in hides all over the place, moss. I treat it like I would their enclosure. Just because it's a drawer doesn't mean it has to be paper towel. And I get some people are like, oh, that's easier to deal with. And I don't understand that because I've done it. And the second they crap on newspaper, they smear it everywhere and it's gross. It stinks like hell. It's a nightmare. You have to clean the whole tub or the whole enclosure because it's everywhere. When they poop in cypress mulch, it soaks it up like litter. I pick it up the next day and throw it out and I'm done. So I don't understand how that's easier, but everybody likes to do it their own way. But no, there's a lot of things people don't do. Grayson Offerman is a young kid. I think he's like 17 or 18 now, out of Texas. He's Cord Offerman, the veterinarian's son. I was in Arlington 2 years ago, and over the loudspeaker, Chad Gaines was like, oh yeah, now the Grayson Offerman young kid is going to do, he's like 14, 16 at the time, something like that, whatever. Yeah. He's going to do a talk on Leachianus geckos. And I'm like, dude, I'm a sucker for any kid that's interested in reptiles. I want to talk to him because I love it. I think it's awesome when any kid gets involved in reptiles. So I asked my coworker, I'm like, hey, can you watch the booth? It's slowing down a little bit. I want to go watch this talk. So I go watch it, and he did a great job. And afterwards, I walked up to him and said, hey, I said, Grayson, you ever put UVB on your geckos? And he's like, well, not really. They don't need it. And I'm like, no, I know they can survive without it, but have you ever done it? And he's like, no. So I said, here's what I'm going to do. When I get back, if you'll do this, because you're really into science, I love your presentation. I think you'd be a cool person to do this. I'm going to send you some UV bulbs and fixtures. I want you to raise some of your geckos on UV and some of your geckos not on, with no access to UVA, UVB at all. And I want you to track their weights and their growth and just give me some observations that you get. It can be all anecdotal. I just want you to try it and see what you think. The dude, he turned his closet into a little science facility. He made different like shelving units for each one with plastic, like the little grow tents, like the not grow tents, but like the little greenhouse tents for like your kitchen. He did that.
Not the grow tent.
Oh yeah. So he did that. Like, but I'm not. Everybody uses those big grow tents for tegus because whatever. I'm not going to get into that. But
my buddy bred rats in a grow tent. It just made sense. Put an exhaust system on there and everything inside his house.
Yeah, but like, so he did that, and then he did this little shelf with this so that no light could transfer and all this other stuff. He was holding the humidity the same. He was reading it all. He was taking micrometer measurements of the animals, and he tracked it over time and how much they were eating and all this. He went balls out with it, which was awesome. I was super proud of him. I was so excited to see what he did. And then he gave that presentation at the Gecko Symposium at Tinley in October. And in front of a room of gecko guys who were like, yeah, they don't need UVB, he showed that all of the baby Leachianus that were born that had access to UV started eating more earlier and started a faster growth curve. So usually with a baby Leachianus without UV, you get like maybe 4 to 6 weeks where they're eating and they're doing okay, but they're not really growing. And I think a lot of that is stress from being a baby and not understanding your environment and just being stressed out. But with UVA and UVB, and it's actually UVA, that reduces their stress. It reduces it improves serotonin development in their brain. It increases immune system strength. And once he did that, those animals started eating and growing right away. So that 4-week lag disappeared, and his animals that had UV got bigger faster.
Wow.
It was super cool to see. And that's something that, where I tell people all the time, I have UV on every animal in my house that's not almost every animal in my house has UV. And the reason, and same thing with the lab, Zilla at the lab, we have UV on everything because all animals have access to UV lighting in the wild. And they're doing a lot of studies that are showing that even crepuscular animals, or what we would call nocturnal, which they're not, they're crepuscular. But even those animals are still using UV to synthesize D3 and metabolize calcium.
Mm-hmm. So, and we had a couple of podcasts ago with Joe Ball, and we were talking blue tongue skinks. And that was something that kind of came up with him because, a lot of what we do is based on what we saw in Australia. And they do rag systems, and that's all great. And they're breeding them every year. And he will say they do fine that way. But even talking to him, there was some question there that UVA and UVB could be better for the animals. Even talking to Don Patterson the other day. Don Patterson living up in Canada, where it's fucking freezing cold till like August, was cycling his blue tongue skinks outside. Let's say you had 100 skinks. He has 10 houses outside. Day 1, this 10 go out. Day 2, that 10 go out. And maybe just for 5 hours, but at the hottest point of the day. And he believed that was helping the animals, even if it was just a little bit of lighting for, a short period of time.
Well, there's a ton of stuff that goes into that too. So like Cyclura and iguana, they have dual cones in their eyes. They can see UVA. So if you've seen pictures of like how a bumblebee sees a flower versus how we see it, or how birds see each other, those animals can see UVA. So while we see a yellow flower, a bumblebee sees a red flower with white pinstripes all pointing at the pollen and all this stuff. We can't see that, but they can. And that has a lot to do with how they perceive their food. So a lot of reptiles that can see UVA will eat better when they have access to UVA, because you can create the most incredible habitat that looks like a picture from the jungle where they come from. But if you're not adding UVA and UVB, you're missing a big component that the sun produces in the wild that they have access to. So you're kind of causing them all to be colorblind and live in a habitat that's gray and bland, versus putting that light on it and actually amplifying how they see their surroundings. And it has a lot, it deals a lot with like day-night cycle and circadian rhythm. All monitors and like a lot of agamids have that parietal eye scale, that clear scale on top of their head. That actually helps them regulate UVA and UVB. And there are studies back into the 1940s that talk about when those guys removed the parietal eye and they didn't have access to understand and regulate their UVA, how it changed like collared lizards, where a young subordinate male would challenge a much bigger dominant male and die constantly because it would disrupt how they worked. And it's kind of the way I look at it is, I live in the upper Midwest. You guys, you know what seasonal depression is. It gets cold. You can't go outside. You're bored all the time. You're not getting a lot of sunlight. And they make those lights for seasonal depression. What those light fixtures are is they're lights that give off UVA, because UVA affects how we feel about things too. It affects how our mannerisms are, how our emotions work, our serotonin development in our brain is influenced by it. There's a lot of things that UV light actually does.
Huh. Interesting.
And we've noticed just the coloration in the skin of a lot of, and like the pigmentations, a lot of animals are changed by getting the UV. So like we were talking about not that long ago with rhino rat snakes, how the pictures we saw of ones that were like this iridescent blue almost looking when they're generally more of a green was just because they were on UVB and UVA is part of the deal. And also then this conversation, I don't know if you've ever thought about this. You probably have, Ryan, but keeping the rodents for the food on with UV, how it affects the rodents' health so much different, and then your animals eat those rodents and how they're better. I don't know that I can keep rodents outside for how hot it'll get and all that, but
and UV really comes down to a cost thing, honestly. As herpers, we're all frugal MacGyvers, and it's kind of like well, if it's not going to die without it, does it need it? That's the big thing. But it's funny to me when you get a guy who's like, I bought this lace monitor for $8,000, and I'm like, sweet, you get a good UV bulb for it? And he's like, they don't need UV. Like a $40 bulb for your $8,000 lizard with its $6,000 enclosure, then you're going to whine about a $40 bulb that will absolutely, worst case, improve its health.
Yeah.
Why? So that drives me crazy. But there's so many benefits to UV. It's just unreal.
So with what you just said, I mean, which is very true, and I always say the same thing when I talk to people, you don't get a rush out of buying a rack system. You don't get a rush out of buying a light bulb. You get a rush out of buying the animal. And That is what we all want, that rush. But, that's why, in the early stages of the hobby, we're building melamine racks instead of spending a hair more to get a PVC rack or spending a hair more from there to get a ARS or Freedom Breeder rack. It's just the excitement comes with the buy of an animal, and really the tank and everything else almost is a necessity that you kind of bring into the equation afterwards.
Well, I'll tell you, if you change your mindset to getting more excited about building the habitat, so this is where me and Erica differ a little bit. I get more excited to build out a huge custom enclosure and plant it and get it to look like a little jungle and get all the parameters right and like just get this mini chunk of the rainforest in my living room. I'd trip out on that. I think it's the coolest thing ever. And then I go to her and I'm like, hey, it's done. Put something in it and take care of it. I just wanted to build the tank. But like, that's something that's where I get my rush with my animals is all the learning, like going on Google Scholar and finding the papers that were written about their gut contents or when they were discovered and described and that kind of stuff. That's cool to me. That's what's really cool is the more I can learn about an animal rather than just having it. And if we got past that idea that like he who dies with the most reptiles wins, and instead we looked at he who dies with the best cared for, most natural, awesome enclosures wins, we'd see a lot different hobby. But that's how they do it in Europe. You look at that stuff, it's crazy. And then we come over here and I'm like, let me put this drawer and show you this snake, and then push the drawer shut.
I don't know. We're American, buddy. We do a lot of things a little differently, man. Let's not get into those details. But what you're saying is very true, and I always say this too, and because I am all about every aspect of this hobby, for each their own, buddy. Some guy wants to be the enclosure guy, be the enclosure guy. If you want to be the 11 slot rack system with 11 pretty animals to look at, everyone's going to have their own drive. I am not one to fuck with somebody that likes something that I don't, unless it's a retic, then I might be an asshole now and again. But, that's a whole nother bag of worms we're not going to get into.
I keep all my 20-foot snakes and 8-foot neodeshes. I don't know what's wrong with that.
So first off, it's neodescians. What is it, fucking 1995, buddy? You got to fucking appreciate that shit.
No, been around a while, all right? Don't make fun of my yellow, brittle neodeshes.
Hey, those things will last forever. Like the vision cages, I've dropped them down staircases. Yeah, the glass breaks. I'll go buy some cheap glass. We're good.
Yeah, so dude, neodeshas, they get old and then you just poke them and they just crumble.
Different time, buddy.
Right?
Back up, Ben. I need some more Ben words. I'm ready for
All
that,
right, come
Ben.
on, Ben. What you got?
So this is the part where Dave's really trying to push me to ask you crazy story questions. So,
All right, bullshit.
no, that's not your. I thought that's what you're looking for.
No, I just wanted you to contribute. You said you had 50 questions pre-written down before we even did this podcast today. You've only asked one question. What's number 2 on the list, buddy?
Well, we'll get done by Thursday. We got this. Let's go.
I didn't write down any questions for this because I talked to Ryan maybe not every day or anything like that, but we talk once in a while.
Sure.
So I do want to kind of get back to herping because there's a lot of herping. I mean, you geek out on it just as much as Dave does. Yeah. Dave's a huge herper. It's actually fun just watching the both of you go back and forth. See, I grew up not really doing any of that stuff. Wasn't like I did it, I guess, but it wasn't my big thing. Mine was like trying to get hurt or hurt people like my brothers and stuff like. So when you're out herping, tell us like a story of your favorite herping trip. And if you can kind of think of one or a good one, and maybe what you found was like a great find or something like that.
No, there's a lot of them. Honestly, I haven't herped nearly as much as I want. I need to get out of the country a lot more or ever. But I just need to find the time, and having kids makes that hard. But I've herped a lot all over the U.S. I love Southern California. I love Southern California and out by Ocotillo and out by along the Mexican border, and then even up into Borrego Springs and that area. It's awesome. I love finding stuff out there. There's such cool habitat, and it's just unique places to be. So I have a group of friends like Bill Stewart and some other people that are all Herp Society members, have been around forever, and we started this little private Facebook group, and it's probably 20 of us. And each year we try and plan 1 or 2 trips. And one of the first big ones we did was the Smoky Mountains, and that was unreal. I mean, 20-something species of salamanders in one weekend. It's just unreal. We hiked 7 miles up a mountain, ended up finding an endangered species that lives by a waterfall at the top of the mountain. I sat under a 50-foot waterfall looking for them and just chilling out. It was awesome. And then let's see, we did Phoenix and then drove to San Diego and did San Diego County and Phoenix. That was a really cool trip. We found a coral, I'll show you a picture sometime or send it to you. This beautiful coral pink speckled rattlesnake on the road. I like the TA white specks. The white speckled rattlesnakes are probably one of the most pretty snakes I think exist. But this thing, like, I'm talking oranges and neon pink and just beautiful speck. And then we went up to Palomar Mountain in outside of San Diego, and we hiked that, and we found Ensatina salamanders and alligator lizards and San Diego gophers. And, it was kind of funny because we get to the top. We stopped at the ranger station to let them know what we were doing so they didn't think we were poaching or doing something crazy. And then we stopped back on the way out and showed them pictures and all this other stuff. And they were really cool about it. But we go out and we park, and I get out of the van we drove up. There's about 7 of us. And I get out, and there were some people there that I knew from like the shows in California and San Diego. And I was like, holy crap, guys. You happen to be in the same parking lot as me randomly. So I started talking to him, and Richie Bratz was one of the people that was with us. And he knew I was looking for alligator lizards and Ensatina clawberi, which are it's the largest lungless species of salamander in the U.S. They're black and neon orange. They're really cool. So I'm talking to these people, and he just kind of starts wandering around the parking lot, steps over a rock, and then flips a log, and there's 2 Ensatinas, 2 alligator lizards, and a San Diego gopher under it. And he's just like, I found them all. We're leaving you here. You can never, and that was what I wanted to find. And then the speck was the other one I wanted to find, and he's the one that saw it on the road. So if you ever want to find things, you just bring him. You won't get to find them because he'll find them, but you'll get to see him. He's good luck, just not for you.
It's a team effort, buddy. Everybody contributes.
I wanted to find it. Everybody will sit in the goddamn car until I find what I want, and then they can come look at it. No, but like that was fun. I mean, and the coolest thing, I've been able to go out with like Jeff Lem and just road cruise. And when you're road cruising in the desert stuff, like the one thing that's fun is just hanging out. So my buddy Sam Fellows, he was the lab tech before Bill at Zilla. He was part of the Herp Society. I've known him for years. He's now out in California. And every time I go out there, he was going to San Diego University for his master's in herpetology. Now he moved up into Central California for his doctorate. But every time we go out, he was recataloging all the sidewinders in the U.S. and doing DNA research to see if they were more species than we originally thought. And he had he'd send me pictures of Clover's handwritten journals. He's wearing gloves to look through them, and I hated him for it. I'm like, you get to touch Clobber's handwriting? Like, that dude's my hero. There's a picture of him in my kitchen. It killed me, but I'm like, it's so cool. Oh my God. Everybody's like, you can't even read it. And I'm like, you know who wrote that? It's so cool. And then we get in the car and start talking genetics and what he was doing with his research and what he's finding out about these different localities of rattlesnakes. And like, people be sitting in the back just listening, and we're like, oh, sorry. And they're like, no, just keep talking. This is the coolest thing I've ever heard. I love listening to this. So like that's the fun stuff I love about road cruising and herping is really just who you're with and being nerd out with reptiles and watch 5 adult men drop to the ground in the middle of a field to take pictures of a box turtle while we're all making baby noises because the coolest thing ever. But then I see a box turtle in a pet store and I'm like, God, box turtles are dumb. I don't really care. And I see one in the wild, and you're like, oh my God. It's like, it's totally different seeing this stuff in its natural habitat. And it's such a cool feeling to just be like, like find a rosy bow and be like, I love rosy bows. I have one. And then I got to see them in the wild, and it's like, that's just super cool. Like, this is where you live. This is how you live. And then you go home, and I'm like, I'm going to change all of this because it was wrong. But like, I love herping. I think that's the biggest thing is like, I don't think there's anything involving reptiles that I don't love. Like, it's not just keeping for me. And I think that's something that I wish a lot of people would expand on is keeping is great, but understanding the appreciation of why these animals exist and where they live in the wild and the niches they fill. And, the fact that they're out there really, they're not just an animal in a pet store that showed up. Like, these have wild populations around the world where they live in these insane habitats. And then to be able to understand that and to appreciate it, you start to really appreciate how amazing these animals are, especially when you get a chance to go see it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, and I couldn't agree more. And, just like you, I'm obsessed with everything reptile-wise. I don't shut this off. And like you said, creating a herp society just to have people to talk to because your family was irritated. I'm in the same boat. I'm a happy guy. I am so much happier when I'm at a show. Around people that I want to be around. And like you were saying, Arlington's coming up. So I'm talking to everybody out that way saying, where do I go herping? When I'm there, I'm going herping. In every city I go to, I go herping. Like,
I'm giving you a spot. I'm going to drop you a pin for a locality of broadband water snakes an hour north of the show, and they're neon orange and red. They look like they're the prettiest ones you'll ever see. All
right, I'm in, man. Send it my way. I'm ready for it. I got a great trip coming up to Tennessee.
Tennessee's awesome.
Oh, Nashville. Do you remember there was a guy down there, Sheridan, in Nashville? He's a big herper down there. He passed away this past year. He put me on a bunch of spots in Nashville. He put me on what he calls the Snake Road in Nashville. It's this beautiful area. You got a bluff to your right. You got to slope down this way to a swampland to your left. Yep. It's a paved area for people to just jog on. And you're finding copper bellies. And you're finding fucking cottonmouths everywhere. And flipping ringnecks. And little newts. And a bunch of different salamander species. Like, the most chill little walk ever. And nobody's there even looking for anything. They're all just out fucking off on their bikes.
It's like Christmas every time you roll a rock. Like, there's a little orange gummy lizard. Holy crap. And you're like down on the ground and you're like, what are you? How many lines are you? Are you a long, like when I started, I'm like, are you a long-tailed salamander? Or are you a cave salamander? Or are you a zigzag salamander? Or are you a redback? Because you all freaking look the same and I have to key you out based on your slimy eyeball diameter. But like, that's the best part.
No, I couldn't agree more. And honestly, I wish I was a little more knowledgeable, and I'm always working on it, going to new areas and talking to new people. But go ahead, Ben. You can hold up that book I bought again at the show. I bought that book for a reason. That thing comes with pictures, descriptions, regions.
Oh yeah.
Like, I had that growing up as a little kid. I had the bug one. I had them all.
Yep.
I love the fish one. I love those books.
Dude,
I can't wait to put that in my book bag.
My first reptile book I got was like a little pocket guide. I think I got it in 1994, and I've still got it. It's on my bookshelf.
That's awesome. See, unlike you, I move around a lot also, and I just leave everything behind every time. There is very little I take with me outside of my animals when I move from state to state. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, a lot of that stuff is going forever, but I'm slowly buying it all over again.
Yeah, I have most of it. I'm the same way, man. I lost out on a lot of cool stuff I used to have that I didn't even know would be as amazing to have now. But
Yeah.
some of that stuff, like the first reptile books. I mean, I have my first leopard gecko that I cremated and put in this teeny little urn, and she's in my reptile room looking over everybody. Like, there's some stuff like that comes with me, but most of the rest of it, I'm like, couch, chuck it, get another couch. Table, I'll get another table, whatever, screw it. I'm not bloating that up.
Almost everything's replaceable, buddy. And who doesn't like
Absolutely.
starting over?
Yep.
Well, Ben, what do you got for me, man? Or are we at a wrap up? Because we're nearing in 2 hours. I'm sure we could do this a lot longer, but what I'm thinking, the same thing we're going to do with Rob and his podcast. If you guys ever want to do a little cross promotional, have us on your podcast and we can all just have a good time.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to come on and talk to you guys some more. And I'm sure we could do this for 5 days.
Yeah,
I was going to say, isn't this just part 1 of 3? Like,
Oh, for
I
sure, man.
agree.
There's always a new current topic. You know what the fuck's going on half the time, so I'm sure we'll have a good conversation.
oh, dude, I'm happy to do this whenever, man. Like, there's always something to talk about. There's always some niche or weird thing that I'm involved in that hasn't even really been talked about yet. There's so much conservation work and cool organizations that are doing stuff all over the country that need to get some spotlight that we can chat about, like the Amphibian Foundation in Atlanta. If you guys haven't done anything with them, you guys need to talk to Mark Mandica there. He ran the Amphibian Conservation for Atlanta Botanical Gardens, and when they shut that down, took all the stuff and moved it to his own thing, and then funded it himself. And now is one of the main people. That's the only reason frosted flatwood salamanders are still alive. Like, there's only 3 populations left. One of them died or went under in a hurricane 2 years ago. There's only 2 populations left, and he has massive programs to breed these things. It's just incredible what he's doing, and it's all just this tiny little, almost schoolhouse like Audubon center in the basement. It's just amazing.
That's
So
awesome.
what-
We'll get that information from you after this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because honestly, one thing I love about your suggestion right there, one thing that I was literally going to bring into this week's podcast is you are kind of a continuation, because we had Dave Kaufman on and your name came up, and we had Josh on from Josh's Frogs and your name came up. You were supposed to be on here because I like the continuation of a conversation from the last one. And what I was going to do at the end was, who do you want to nominate? Who do you suggest? So I love that you even beat me to the chase on that one, buddy. Because I want that to be part of this. I want people to recommend who they want to hear, because we always talk about that. New species, new people to educate and kind of, get us thinking about something that we wouldn't think about. And, your circle of friends is very different from my circle of friends, buddy. So, no, I appreciate that, honestly.
No, I'd be happy to send you guys some people. There's some people out there doing some amazing things. Like, even I said that Grayson Offerman, it'd be cool to talk to about what he did with his geckos. Just his presentation at the Gecko Symposium. I mean, I loved it, because I already knew that would have a change, because I've done these studies in my basement myself between like Amazon tree boas with and without UV as babies and how they reacted and things like that, and saw massive changes in their feeding and habits and natural everything was different. And I knew that when I sent him this, I knew what was going to happen. But for him to go through and really detail it out, and then tell a room of gecko guys that, hey, all your nocturnal geckos do a ton better with UV, even though none of you think they do, and you all keep them in tubs. Like, and then have the data behind it and just show everybody. I loved it. I loved that it was something that he could show and that he had data on. And it was also kind of a big, like, I like that I got to give him the moment to say, hey, I know this and the hobby needs to know it. How would you like to break it down and then be the one to show everybody in a room that this is what needs to happen, and you can be that voice? And that was awesome. And he nailed it, man. Like, guys were walking around afterwards like, oh, who's selling UV bulbs? Because I think I want to try that. Like, was it real? Like, we need to go check this out. And it does. It makes an enormous difference. And it was just cool to be like, dude, I want you. You're going to be the voice on this one because I think it'll be cool coming from you. That was just awesome. I mean, it's just awesome, that kind of stuff. And only the people in that room saw that. And then after that information is dead. So, and the other thing I've actually told Dave this too, Dave Kaufman, like, start thinking about the old timers, the old timers. We just lost Ken Foose. We lost Ken Hamper. We're losing these guys that are pillars in what the hobby is today. And we're losing their stories with them. Somebody needs to do that. Be like the Legends of Herpetoculture series.
Yeah, we're gonna get on Bob Applegate. We're just trying to figure out the technology part because he told me he can't do the technology part. But I think we're gonna do that in audio only, like kind of what we did with one of our other guests. But yeah, I love that. And
not just like Bill Brandt was on with like MJ and those guys, and they asked a ton of. I didn't get to watch all of it, but it was a lot of like talking about the different things he's bred and kept, and that's great. But that's all stuff that honestly, if there's some stuff that I'd love to know how he's been regularly breeding Timor pythons when it doesn't seem like anybody can. But at the same time, I find more value in the history and the stories of what happened because we can look up how to. He might, the Barkers were some of the first people to breed almost every freaking python species. Well, now that's been published in so many books and so many people have carried that knowledge on that it's out there. What's not out there is the stories about him that he did at the Herp Symposium when I had him be a keynote speaker. And he came in telling us about how he had a bounty out for any retic over 19 feet and how he used to have to deal with these pissed off retics out of the wild that you'd have to use a wiffle ball bat to keep them from biting you in the face. And like how hard it was back in the day to get wild caught ball pythons to feed. Nobody even understands what kind of hellish torture that was compared to now. They're just like, no, I just give it a dead rat and it's frozen and I stick it in its face and it eats it. I'm like, yeah, try doing that with gerbils and crap from can I rub a fish on a chicken, on a cat, and will that make the right scent? What's going to get you to eat? That kind of crazy stuff that used to have to happen and what really built this hobby into what it is. That's the fun. That's the cool stuff I want to hear.
No, yeah. I couldn't agree more. And, we talked about this when we find guests. We're always going for the OGs, man. Again, I love the Vin Russo one. I thought Vin Russo was amazing. And even Ron St. Pierre's, I didn't even think Ron would say yes because I didn't really know Ron when I asked him. I just loved, his contribution might not be the way to put it, but I'm a boa guy. So we all know Ron St. Pierre blood boas. We all knew that he got the Motley in. He's a name that had always been on my radar. A guy who, again, worked with more species than maybe not anyone in the hobby. I'm sure maybe somebody else, but an amazing resume. And what an awesome time talking to that guy. So, I've got guys on my list. Brian Sharp has come up in conversation. Yeah. I got to get up to Brian Sharp. I would love to have Tracy and Dave on. We've already tried. I don't want to push it. Maybe we could do a little something with them at Arlington, but, we'll see. I'm not one to I don't, but girls say no to me all the time, buddy. I have not quit yet.
No, those guys are awesome. And I mean, Dave is I love talking to Dave, and I talk to him not as much as I need to right now, but I talk to him a couple times a year and keep in touch with him. And he's just the stories and after the symposium, getting drunk with Dave Barker, eating mac and cheese and bacon pizza in Madison, dude, that was the night. That was the night where my life was complete. That was so cool. And it was just the stories and the bullshitting. It was great. I mean, it was awesome just to be around that.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, again, Ben, man, I didn't mean to say we peaked before you were done over there because, this was a podcast I kind of interrupted you about 95 times, and I do feel bad right to the very end on this.
No, it's all good. I think that we we went 2 hours. I think that we're going to try to keep these close to 2 hours or less, to do that. But I do want to keep, get it on another one and maybe switch seats here, would be fun. I think that'd be a good time. But
yeah, get Erica on here and ask her all the crap that I don't want people to know. It'll be fun. She can roast.
I love talking to Erica, actually. Every once in a while I'll message her and we'll just go back and forth on something stupid or
she's way cooler than me. Like anybody, like I get to be the big face and everybody knows me, but they don't realize like she's way cooler than me. And she has knowledge that would just blow your freaking mind. She does. Our animals back from completely dead. Like I poked its eyeball, no heartbeat, dead, and then breathing and fine the next day. Like just her knowledge is insane, and what she does with the rescue and her love of reptiles. But it's a different type of love for reptiles. Like we both attack it in different ways. We both have our passion in different things drive us. But like, I love. Me and her still pick each other's brains all the time. We'll send each other articles like, "Holy crap, do you know this does that?" Or like. You know, like, she never ceases to amaze me every day.
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and put this out here, buddy. After what you just said, I don't think your hand is going to lose any weight for weeks.
Yeah, I got to suck up way harder than that. I got to go do dishes and clean the house and say that stuff online.
Well, this is that part, man. Ben, why don't you go ahead and send us out? You're the best at this.
All right. Well, you're just saying that because you talked the entire episode.
No, it's because I don't know actually how to send us out.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching, or if you're listening out on one of our podcast platforms, we appreciate it. And if you guys are on a platform that you can like and share this, we'd also appreciate that as well. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell when we put out new content. So we appreciate it, and thank you guys so much. Thank you, Ryan, for being on. Always a pleasure. We always have a great time. It's great when we get to see you in person from time to time. I can't wait until the next time, and maybe one of these days I'll come up and spend a night on the couch or something. I don't know. But
you're always welcome, and Boogie will teach you how to color better.
Yeah, I know. She's really good. I have to say, I have to buy all of your kids dinner again because I bought the Polish food the last time and it didn't work out. But
let's buy them sushi. You're good, man. We're good. We got sushi.
Yeah. That night. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you guys on the next one.